Hey guys, welcome to the session on Coffee with Prabh, and we have our special guest today, Mr. Damian. Damian has recently cleared multiple certifications in the management, and one of the certification was CISSP-ISSMP. Along with that, he done multiple certification like CRISC, CISO, CISSP, CSM. And one thing I like about Mr. Damian is he was passionate about learning. You know, uh, carrying a 26 plus year of experience in the IT and information security, it's not an easy thing. And along with that, balancing the learning. This is the live example that for the people who say that okay, yes, I don't have a time and all that. So thank you, Mr. Damian, to taking out the time for this particular session. I appreciate.
You're very gracious. Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Damian, just need to understand, we'll directly come to the topic, how to prepare for CISSP, ISSMP, because a lot of folks are always looking for this question, what resource we should follow, what is the document we should follow. So what is your recommendation? What is the mindset we need to have for the certification?
Well, first of all, you need to download the exam outline from ISC2. That way you have a really good visibility of what is covered on the test and what sort of structure it's going to follow.
Okay.
Myself personally, I am able to absorb new information best when I have multiple formats of media being used in the in the training. So everyone learns differently. So anyone who's thinking about pursuing this, you have to have a good understanding of how best that you learn. Just because what I'm going to describe worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it will work for anybody. But I can tell you what did work for me and why I chose the particular things that I did. Now, the very first thing that I did was, obviously, we had to get the official CBK, the official book.
Okay.
From my camera, I don't know if you can see it well.
Oh, we can see that. We can see that. Yeah.
And with one of your recommendations was also to review what was in the CISSP guide.
Okay. So you have used two books here. One is called the Primary Official Guide, ISSMP. I think that is an old edition, 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong.
This, to the best of my understanding, is what is the most current one. There is a newer version of information being used on the test. However, they're not as quick to update the books as they are with the CISSP.
Okay.
So, but if you have this book, you have 95% of what you need. There might be a couple of little things in there that other materials will cover. One of the other things that I found was there was also a very inexpensive version of the questions, which I found on Amazon.
Okay.
And that was as far as I went for books. Now, I also made about 250 flashcards of my own. And on some of the things that I struggled with, what I would do is on those topics, I would find some kind of infographic, some kind of chart, some kind of illustration, so I could relate a concept to a picture. And then what I did was I made a flip book.
Okay.
Where you had all of these pages in there with notes in the margins. And that was about 50 pages. I had, because I'm a military veteran, I have access to a website called FED VTE, FED VTE. So if you're a veteran or a former federal employee or anything like that, you have access to that. And there was 12 and a half hours of video lecture that was on there. Now that was dated 2018. However, it was very close. I would say probably within 90% of the most current information that was available at the time.
So that videos you're talking about, it is a videos of ISSMP or it is a
Yes,
random video? Okay.
yes, no, it's 12 and a half hours of ISSMP.
Okay. And
Then
what is the name of
then
the
from
vendor? Like, do you have any idea about what is the name of the vendor? Like, I know Fed TV is basically the federal, but
Fed VTE. Now there was two video series on Udemy,
oh, okay.
but one of them has been taken down.
Okay.
There's one left. There is a very comprehensive video on YouTube. I forget the young lady's name, but if you do a search for ISSMP, you'll find it. It'll come up,
Okay.
one of the first three. I also used practice questions from Udemy, Edusum, which is EDUSUM,
Mhm.
and I also used electronic flashcards from ISC2.
Okay.
So as you can see, I had multiple medias to be able to really make things lock in there. And I had a total test bank of about 1,000 questions.
1,000 questions. Okay.
So what I did was there was approximately, now you have, those are spread out. You had probably 125 in the official book, 310 in one place, 350 in another place, plus 135 plus 125. That's about 920. And then I had some other ones that I had found here and there that were just kind of miscellaneous. But what I did was I would work on one set of questions, and I would keep working them and keep working them and keep working them until I was above 90% across the board in those questions. Then I would move on to the next one. And I did all 4 different sets that I had, did those questions. And then I went back over them again and did them all again. And when I was above 90% across the board, I felt like I was ready, and I went ahead and scheduled my test.
That's great. So normally what happened when we're preparing for CISSP or when we're preparing for CCSP, this is my experience with me when I was preparing for MP and AP. For me, the question bank, which I found very useful, was the backside of every domain, which is in CBK.
Yes, in
Because
the official book.
yeah. So what is your experience about those question bank which is there in the CBK?
Well, first of all, I want everybody to not be as nervous or afraid of the ISSMP test as the CISSP, because that one, at least the best that I could figure, was not adaptive. So that test, you're going to do the entire 125 questions, no matter what you do. You have 3 hours. You do 125 questions, and the test will not stop until you get to the end or until you quit. Now, that being said, you're never going to get any question bank out in the wild that's going to be exactly like the test. It just doesn't happen. But what I found useful, I looked at a couple of videos from Miss Kelly Handerhan, and another one from Jason Dion on strategic test taking. And then the one from Kelly Handerhan was why you will pass the CISSP. So
yeah, think like a manager. Yeah,
those things helped a lot. The other thing is to be able to dissect the question, try to find the keywords, and be really, really sure of what exactly the question is asking, because one word difference can change the question entirely. So normally what I would do is when I would come to a new question, I would read the answers first. And then I would look at the question. Then I'd read the answers again. Then I'd look at the question again. And I usually would do each one 3 times. And normally you can throw two answers out right away. And then you have to look for the keywords to find what it is the question's asking you, so that you can pick from the remaining 2. Now, sometimes the answers will be very, very close, and they're very, very well written. So you have to really be paying attention. If you try to go fast, you will never make it.
So that is a
Take your
feedback.
time.
Yeah, that is a feedback I would like to suggest to all the participants. Our brain is basically work in a two systems, system one and system two. System one is basically think fast. Okay, so whatever we read based on that, we just answer that. But system two thinks slow and it give a better decisions, informations. Sometimes it happens right in hurry burry, or we when we read the question, we able to connect. Oh, we know the answer. Bella Padula is all about confidentiality. But question is talking about which of the following is not affecting the confidentiality. So we miss the keyword called not, and that basically changed the answer. So
Yes,
I think Mr. Damian is talking about the same thing. Don't be in hurry. Reading the entire question, understand the interpretation of the question, understand the options, and then go for the right option. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Damian.
that is correct. Everything is going to be best, most, worst, least, and you have to really. I don't really see how anybody could be successful reading the question just one time and then answering it,
Mm-hmm.
because you really have to dissect it. Okay, what is it asking? What is the keywords? You have to pick out inside the question. Okay, it wants the most. Okay, the most of what, or the least of what, the worst of what. Some questions would be asked, what is the first thing you would do, or what is the second thing you would do, or what is the last thing you would do.
Mm-hmm.
Now those, you have to know those processes pretty forward and backward. But if you know the basic outline, when you read how the answer is written, it will pop out at you and it will make sense, because they'll take at least two of them and they'll put a wrong word, or they'll put a wrong tense to a word, or they'll stick another distractor in there, and specifically to throw you off. But if you take your time, go slow, remember to breathe, and then sometimes you have to pause for a minute, take a deep breath, unfocus your eyes, look around, stretch, uh, utilize your time wisely, but at the same time use it efficiently.
True.
The other thing is, on ISC tests, you normally can't go back. So you can't flag it and go back later, or if you see the answer later on, it's not going to help you.
True.
So you need to be sure. But part of the prep time of your time management is looking at, okay, we have 125 questions, we have 3 hours. So if you divide that, you'll figure out you have somewhere between 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes per question. So sometimes your question, you can figure it out real quick. Oh, I know that. Well, you don't have to spend your whole 2 minutes on that question. You can add that somewhere else down the line. But make sure, read it a second time before you hit next, because once you hit next, you're committed and you can't go back.
That's a very good advice you have suggested. So, Mr. Damian, I just want to understand one more important thing is that when we're preparing for such kind of a certification, okay, like as you did your CISSP also, you did your CCSP also. So in CISSP, we say think like a manager. Our role is not to fix the issue. Our role is to suggest the solutions. Our role is to suggest the gap address and everything by doing a risk assessment. Our role is not to implement anything. And when it comes to cloud security exam like CCSP and all that, we think like a cloud security advisor, where we are in this impression is we have to take control of the more of the operations. As a user, we don't have a control over the data, so we will apply it. So we are thinking from a cloud security point of view, and we give in the answer. What is the mindset we need to have when it comes to ISSMP?
Well, I would say this: to even qualify to go and take the ISSMP, you have to be a CISSP
True.
in good standing already.
True.
So you should be at least fairly familiar with the mindset of thinking like a manager. I would say, though, in the ISSMP, there's not as many questions that would be structured to trigger the thought process of let me go fix something. It's written more from a management perspective than the CISSP, which is to be expected because the title is management professional.
True.
So it's assuming that you're there already, that you're on the same sheet of music. So the biggest thing is, if you see something trying to trigger you, like I said before, you really need to look for the keywords and try to figure out what is the question asking, not what I think it's asking. What is the question asking? And you need to be certain what exactly the question is asking. Now, the best piece of advice was one that you gave me a long time ago, was you not only have to know the right answer, but the biggest help that you ever gave me was telling me you have to know why the other answers are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not just know the right answer, but why the other answers are wrong. So if you run through them one at a time and run that answer to its logical conclusion, you'll be able to tell pretty readily whether that's a wrong answer or that's not applicable to what the question is asking, because of paying attention to those keywords.
Okay.
That's what worked for me.
And
Now,
the way we, sorry.
I would also give some encouragement to people who are easily discouraged, or if you're one of those people that find an excuse of why you can't. No, it's why you can. I became a CISSP at 61 years old. So
that is really commendable.
It's never too late, and old dogs really can learn new tricks. So take your time, prepare yourself, avail yourself of all the resources that are there. Things like Reddit are really, really fabulous. Now, I will tell you this, there's not very much for ISSMP on Reddit. There really isn't. For CISSP, there's a ton. For CISSM, there's a ton. Everything else, there's a ton. ISSMP or any of the other concentrations, I didn't see very much.
True.
The other thing is, you're looking at what your career path is. Are you going toward management? Are you going toward architecture? Are you going towards engineering? Those kind of things. That's going to lead you to be in that mindset. Now, I decided long ago, even before I started the CISSP, that I was going to pursue management. So if you look at all of the things that I have done, they're all infosec, cybersecurity, management focused. And it's a very narrow left and right limit. The long range is unlimited, but the left and the right limit is to stay in the management stuff. Now, I have a significant amount of technical background. I've built networks that span continents. I've built networks that span multiple countries, multiple time zones. I've done everything from building clone servers back in the day. I remember having to put coax cable together with vampire taps, all the way up to the things that we have now. I like learning new things. I enjoy technology, and this is my career. This is how I feed my family, and this is what I enjoy doing. I was a military man for a long time. Well, I'm a little bit too old to do that now, so you have to do what you can do. So I've been very fortunate that yourself and Prashant and Luke Ahmed and several other people have kind of taken me under their wing with little or no financial gain to themselves, just out of the goodness of their hearts. And honestly, sometimes, especially on things like LinkedIn and things like this, complete strangers will help you more than people who know you personally. And
we just following the canons. If you remember, the first canon say that protect society.
Correct, and then we have a responsibility to give back. So that's kind of what I'm trying to help you do. It knocked me on the floor when you asked me to come be on Coffee Shots, because I've watched them for quite a while, and I'm like, man, I was all over LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be on Coffee Shots with Prabh. So everybody wants to see it. So as soon as the link is published, we're gonna put it out there.
I'm sure this video will be very useful for the aspirants who are preparing for ISSMP. I'm sure that.
And I although I'm not an official member of the infosec train, I feel like a disciple.
No, you are you are one of the family of infosec train, and you are one of our gladiators. So I'm glad. See, that's why people on Friday night they do drinks, they party hard, and Mr. Damian is here to discussing about the education. I think it's really required, appreciation for Mr. Damian, right, team?
Yes.
Because Friday is a party mood, and see here we have a Saturday morning. It's basically 7:30 for me also.
Yeah,
So
it's Saturday. It's Friday night here.
Yeah, I know. But
I
glad
promise I will have a drink as soon as we get finished.
I'm sure. And one on the name of Prabh Nair, if possible.
Absolutely.
Not with a coffee with Prabh, but it will be drinks with Prabh. I'm also having a same thing here.
It will be a shot, but it just won't be coffee.
Sure. So I was wondering, the way I prepare for ISSMP is, my CISM knowledge basically helped me to prepare for ISSMP, because CISM is basically give the perspective about information security governance strategy and all that. Is it applicable in your case also, Mr. Damian? You did CISM first, then you went for ISSMP. Does that CCSP, CISM, and CSSP knowledge help you to clear the ISSMP? Just need to understand.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention is the strategy behind the path and the sequence that I did, the certifications that I have done, is because everything that I've done up to now either builds on the thing that came before it, or there's a tremendous amount of overlap. For example, if you're into what you and I are into, and you are able to pass the CISSP, you'd be crazy not to jump on CISM right afterwards. Cool. It's probably a good 70, maybe even 80% overlap. It's a lot of the same material, just presented as the question, maybe in a slightly different format. And sometimes they use a little bit different words or a little bit different phrasing.
Yeah.
One of the things that comes to mind is when they talk about how to handle risk. Well, one organization is going to call it risk transference. Well, the other organization is going to call it risk sharing. And if you say the wrong one in the wrong organization, then the answer to the question is it's technically correct, but on the test, it's not going to be. But then that's what I'm saying. Be laser focused on the words. Make sure that you find those keywords and what exactly the question is all about and what precisely is it asking you. But yes, because everything was kind of a stair step in altitude, let's say. Now, there's a couple of them that I consider peers. Some of the tests were superior to others. You have to kind of realize that in our world, CISSP is kind of at the top as far as for notoriety, being asked for the most on a job description, on resumes and things like that. But so are these others that I have, depending on what your career path is. So what I did was, because I personally don't have a college degree, I have to find as much as I can to help differentiate myself or set myself apart from everyone that I have to compete with. Because I may be competing against a 25-year-old that has a master's degree and maybe one certification and 5 years of experience. Well, I have 26 years worth of experience. I have 19 certifications, but I don't have a college degree.
Same here.
And I have to deal with the fact that although it's actually illegal in this country, but some people don't like to hire, older workers. Now, that being said, some people like to hire the older workers because older people know how to work. You have a lot of people that are accustomed to instant gratification, and they're not really about putting in the work. They're just worried about what they're going to get. So one of the things that I have on my my email tagline is don't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. Do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't.
And it is actually one of the a good code, because nowadays what happen is people success and their activities are basically measured by their numbers and all that, which is not true. Even I got 33, 34 in my school, and because of having a limited marks in the school, initially I don't get the good job in good companies. But today, when it comes to the technical certifications, that something is basically validate my profiles. Yeah, it's a very good point, Damon, you have said, and this is a very good motivation point for those subscribers who have this mindset. Okay, until unless I don't have a good education, I can't get a good job. And you have given this as a best example.
Well, you're very gracious. Thank you. It's never too late, and you have to want to move forward. You have to want to. You have to like learning new things. And in information security and cybersecurity, you have to be a lifelong learner. You cannot survive if you're not. And you have to breathe, live and breathe this stuff. Now, when I'm not working, I'm not working. But my wife can tell you, when I'm prepping for an exam, I am studying 4 hours a night, every night, and then 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday. And I may run through 1,500 questions every 5 days. I'm reading my books, I'm making my notes, I'm finding graphics so that I can tie a picture to a concept so it can kind of lock in my head. You have to be accustomed to the language, because especially once you get past CISSP, you're operating where you're having regular communications with the C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with senior management. They speak in business terms. You and I are technical people, but because of our backgrounds, we can be that bridge that goes between the technical and the management.
True.
Because management makes the decision. They're in business mode. They're about profit and loss, risk, and those kind of things. Whereas we are the facilitators who either are making the mechanical things work, making everything talk to each other, or we are helping draft policies, acceptable use things. We're reviewing agreements. We're helping them construct contracts for vendors or outsourced resources that we may have. All of those kind of things. We're helping them manage the risk. One of the things that we do is we help them by educating them on what questions to ask. And then when they get information, we have to help them translate it into business language. What is the dollars and cents? What is it? How is it going to benefit? Because at the end of the day, IT is there to enable the business.
True.
It exists for no other reason.
True.
So if you are constantly coming across as a cost center, where all you do in their eyes is cost them money, well, you have to help them understand, for example, that security risk is business risk. And that risk can be quantified. In
True.
other words, you can translate that into an actual sum of money. Now, you can say things like, well, it's hard to quantify a negative. Well, that's why we have qualitative assessments that we can do, so that we can help them get as much information as they can so that they can do their job, which is to make those business decisions. Now, they're not going to always agree with what we want. They're not going to always agree with what we say, but we can guide them in very positive ways to where it's not adversarial, it's not confrontational, but let them know, hey, I'm your right-hand man. I'm the kingmaker. I want to help. Tell me what you need, or bring me with you, and we'll ask questions. We'll come back. We'll brainstorm, and we'll figure out what it is that we need to find out. We ask the right questions. We know where to go find those answers at, and then we translate those answers into actionable items that the business can make decisions to move forward.
True. And that is that is basically one of the thing is that we have this management kind of a certifications in the perspective and how you basically take the things. I believe so.
Absolutely. You even see it a lot more. I would say focus-wise, very narrow focus-wise. If you get past this ISSMP and you do, for example, the CISSP, you will then get to see from the other end of the telescope.
True.
You get to look downstream instead of always looking upstream.
True.
And then you have a better understanding of why they make the decisions that they do. Because a CISSP course is kind of like a miniature MBA, but it has to do with information security and risk and how those things interact with the business. So our job, once we get at the level that we are, is to try to be that bridge and not to be an obstacle. We are there to enable the business. If the business doesn't make money, then nobody makes money. Nobody has a job. Nobody does anything. So we have to do the best we can to try to help them make good decisions. We need to make sure that they have as much information as humanly possible. We give them judgment. We advise, we analyze, and we give suggestions.
True.
We don't make those decisions. We write policies. Sometimes we may have some latitude or authority that's formally assigned to us, but those would be, established right at the beginning. But there's always somebody up the chain. But we're there to help them. We're the shield. So you have to think of it kind of like the knights fighting for the king. So the knights are the shield, keeping the bad things out. One of my little companies that I have is actually called Cerberus Technology Group. And if you're familiar with your Greek mythology, Cerberus was the three-headed dog that guarded the underworld.
Yeah.
It kept the good things in the good place and the bad things in the bad
place. Yeah.
So that's how I like to think of myself.
That's great. And one more important thing, like the way we have a CISSP, which is covering a lot of technical things, like, domain 4 is basically telecom and all that. Then domain 3, we have a security architect and all that. How do you find the technical aspects in, I'm sure you're not having this drinks.
No. Tea with lemon.
Covert operations, eh?
Tea with lemon.
We don't know. Writing doesn't mean happen. Go look and verify. This is what principle of CISSP.
I give you my word. I give you my word.
Just kidding.
Now, in a few minutes, it'll be a different story. But
okay.
No, on the test and in the book, the technical level, or the technical how deep it's digging into the particular topic wasn't really that deep. You will see far more technical in the CISSP and the CISM than you will here. Now, there'll be a little bit of it here and there. You may see a question asking you to explain or pick out the definition of the difference between asymmetric and symmetric cryptography. Or you may see something that says, something along those lines, but it's not going to ask you to identify how many key bits something is, or what is the exact strength of RSA, or explain the workings of ECC. It's not gonna get that technical on this test, simply because this is a management test.
Exactly.
Now, it assumes that you have a certain level of technical expertise. But it does not assume that you're a technical specialist.
Okay.
It assumes that you've been in the IT business for a while. You have, to be in the CISSP, you have to have at least 5 years of experience, and then you have to have some more to do this. So it's not an entry-level test by any means, But as far as technical, it's only technical from the management aspect. What are the specifics of the management principle that the question is dealing with? But
Okay.
as far as for anything grossly technical, I didn't see it. That was my experience. Now, I do understand that they've released a new set of questions since I took my test, but it was just to add a couple of things about blockchain and AI, but it didn't go into it very deeply, and it was only a cursory effort.
Okay.
But technical, I would say no.
So how good understanding is required on the governance area for this domain, this exam? Like,
if you don't know governance, you will not pass this test.
that's why we say CISSP can be a prerequisite also for CISSP. Sorry,
That is
ISSMP.
correct. That is correct. Now, again, one of the things that I found that was interesting is you have to be very careful in making sure that you understand the question and what the question is asking, because if you see an ISC2 version of the question and the ISACA version of the question, they're very different.
Very different.
Someone who knows the answer will recognize the difference. But if you're not paying attention, it will throw you off. And especially if you're doing like what I'm doing and you're going back and forth between ISACA and ISC and EC Council and CompTIA and GIAC and everything else. Excuse me.
So that is a good point you have raised. So yeah, thanks Damian, to share your experience about this ISSMP. So do you have any last minute point before we wrap up this session?
I would say this: nobody that is successful goes through this alone. Seek out help, seek out mentors, seek out especially people who have done it before, people who have been there. Most of the time, they are more than willing to help you out because someone helped them out. So we have an obligation to pay it forward. Make sure that you prepare thoroughly. You need to look when you start evaluating how you're going to prepare. My best recommendation is look to the people who have done it successfully the first go round. Find the things that they have in common, and then tie that together with whatever methods work for you and how you learn. Some people can just pick up the textbook, read through the textbook one time, cover to cover, and they're ready and they can go. I am not one of those people. I have a good friend of mine who's one of my instructors been my instructor since 1999. And he was an engineer on a nuclear submarine. He's one of those people. He can pick up the book, read it one time, and he can go take the test. I require a lot more preparation than that. But things like study groups. Look and see if you can find people that are going through it at the same time on Reddit. There's things on Discord. There's a lot of resources out there. InfoSec Train is one of them. Also, make sure you connect with Prabh Nair. Prabh will not let you down. If you do what Prabh says, Prabh will get you there. The train will run on time and you will get where you're going.
Thanks for the kind words.
Hand to God.
No. So Damian, just need to understand, like, can the people reach out to you directly? Can I share your LinkedIn profile in the description box? And if someone
Absolutely.
Thanks. So
Absolutely.
guys, if you're looking for some kind of a queries related to ISSMP, Mr. Damian is for you, and I'm sure Damian will basically reach out, available for you whenever you need any kind. And that is how the society works. What we learn, we just give back to the society, and that is how it's all about the life.
Well, we have to make a stronger community.
Exactly. So the way we have a Reddit forum for CISSP and CCSP, do you find any relevant study forums for the ISSMP? Do you want to recommend?
I would say this: as far as for forums, ISSMP is probably the weakest of the concentrations as far as for resources that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I had to put in some work to find what I did find. Not many people do the management side. Most people that are like us, they tend to gravitate toward the technical side, and that's great because
Cool.
there's an engineer part, there's an architecture part, et cetera, et cetera. But the management part, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to really dig to find stuff that's ISSMP specific. There's stuff out there. I would say this, stay away from the brain dumps. That's, first of all, is unethical and it violates your code of conduct in the first place. But most of it is garbage. It's wrong. I looked at some of it after I took the test, and I'm like, boy, I'm sure glad I didn't look at any of this, because I would have just been out in the tall grass somewhere, waiting for a tiger to come and kill me. Just take your time, seek out people who have done it. Prabh's done it. I've done it. People before us have done it. And
I'm
I would
sure
say
you
this,
guys can also do it after this video.
That's right. You guys can also do it, because no one was born knowing how to do this.
True.
Somebody taught us, and we will teach you, and we will help you as best as we can. You just have to be, the best thing I can tell you is be organized. True. And you have to be relentless on your studying. Once you set a goal and you schedule your test date, then it's more or less written in stone, and that's going to put pressure on you. But the thing is, you have to be able to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's true.
Myself personally, whenever I take on a new certification exam, I usually give myself about 6 weeks to 2 months to get ready, and that's if I'm starting from nothing. I get the official book. If there's a boot camp that I can go to, a lot of times my employer will pay for it. We've actually been able to, over my last 13 years at the job where I'm at now, we've been able to get over $350,000 in grant money from the state to attend in-person instructor trainings and boot camps and things like that. So there's resources out there. A lot of times people are going for these things and they really don't have the support or the finances to do it. There's resources out there. Reach out. People, if I don't have a resource that I can give you, I will tell you some people you can go find a resource from. But the biggest thing is, don't give up. You must be relentless. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up.
Don't give up. That's a very good point. And before we wind up the session, I just want to say one thing. There is no shortcut for a success. It required system. It required process by which you basically achieve the desired outcome. For me, ISSMP took around 6 months of preparation. ISSP took 3 months of preparation. CISSP took 3 months of preparation. So yes, somehow CISSP was a foundation. Stick with the concept, follow the concept, have experience of governance. Will definitely will help you to clear this exam. So my suggestion is that first will be the official book ISSMP, which Damian has suggested. If you have a CSUM, that experience will definitely help. So these 2 books are enough, I believe. Apart from that, if you want to follow some niche resources, you can follow, but 95% content is already covered in ISSMP CBK. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Damian.
That is correct.
Thank you.
The biggest thing with the, especially with the CBK, is it will acclimate you to how the questions are written. It will get you accustomed to using those phraseologies.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to see, you'll have a better understanding of how to look at the question to determine what exactly the question is asking. You won't see those identical questions, but you will see the material that's covered in it presented in many different ways. So another good thing that I've learned along the way too is when you get it, when you feel like you get it down pat, if you can explain it to someone else who doesn't do this and they understand the way that you explain it, then you know it.
True. True.
So,
I agree.
because Prabh can tell you that we learn best sometimes by teaching. So if
Yeah.
you can explain it to somebody else and break it down to the level of a fifth grader, then yeah, you understand it. You have a working knowledge of the topic, and you should be able to figure it out. It's not what you know, it's what you can figure out.
Agree. I agree with that point, because that is basically the most important element we have that we need to consider. If you can teach some others, it means you understand the concept well. Same like, a good instructor is the one who know the concept. He can able to explain the topic well to their students. That is how it works.
There was only one advice that I had got along the way that didn't work for me personally, but I hear it a lot on all of the certifications. For example, in the CISSP, a lot of times I would hear the instructor saying that you should know what domain that question comes from. That particularly did not help me at all.
Okay.
Because if the questions were being presented domain by domain by domain in order, or one domain and then finish, next domain and then finish, next domain and finish, that would have been helpful. It may be helpful to other people, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from that. I'm just saying, for me, that was not helpful. But what I did do was make sure that I understood what the concept was about, what was the principle behind what it was they were trying to get across. How is that used in the ISSMP environment when you're working as a CISSP, or you're working as a senior management, or even an executive?
Yeah, so that is a very good point. Yeah.
How is it applied in the real world? Now, granted, you know as well as I do, sometimes the answer that happens in the real world and the answer that happens on the test is not anywhere near the same thing.
True.
But on test day, worry about what the test wants. Then
True.
we worry about that other stuff later. You have to put your tools that you already have at the door. Bruce Lee said, you cannot put water in a cup that is already full.
I agree.
So absorb the information as it's presented in the format and the form that it's presented in, and then operate in that environment. Once you get finished with that environment, as long as you keep up with your CPEs, you never have to do that again.
True.
But you have to put in the work.
I agree with the last point also. Until unless you don't understand the concept, you cannot able to validate. And it basically come with the sequence. It come with the mindset. What is the mindset you have for that particular preparation? Yeah, that's a good point.
And I try to use metaphors a lot, because a lot of times people use the word mindset, and sometimes people don't really understand what that is. And mindset is just a manner of thinking. However, a mindset is not a training objective. A mindset is just a perspective. How are you looking at it? In other words, what I was just saying was, operate in that bubble for the time that you have to operate in that bubble. Leave everything else outside, empty your mind, focus on that, and you'll get where you want to go.
That's great. Thanks, Damian, for taking out the time for this particular session. And I'm sure, this session, this video will be definitely useful for the aspirants who are preparing for the ISSMP, because I think this will be the first kind of a video where the candidate who cleared the exam sharing his experience, and I'm sure it will be a great hit, and it will have a great knowledge parameter for the aspirants who are preparing for the certification. And right now, IC2 is already having the peace of mind offer, so I'm sure people will take a risk of booking this under the second shot offer. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, the only thing is, just remember for the aspirants that the instructors and the people who are trying to help you can't tell you what's on the test.
Yeah.
They can tell you the material, and they can explain to you how it's going to be presented. But if you're looking for them to tell you what questions are on the test, they're not going to do that. First of all, that violates our code of conduct, and we could get in trouble and lose our certifications for that. So you have to be genuine, and you have to be ethical, and just be willing to put in your own work. You will get your reward, I promise you.
Thank you so much for the key advice that you have given, and I'm sure this will be the great output, great input to the aspirants who preparing for the certification. Thanks, Damian. Thanks for taking out the time for this particular session, and we are really grateful. We are really obliged that you able to take out your Friday time. I'm sure after this event, you definitely have your drinks shots as a
Oh yeah.
celebration. And congratulations again for your recent series. And today you got your credential, and we'll do one more video soon. And if you guys want another video from Mr. Damian on series preparation and CISO preparation, do let us know in the comment box. I'm going to disturb Damian again. I'm going to
Okay.
take his Friday schedule.
That's
Okay.
fine.
I want to spoil his
I'm
drinks.
I'm always happy to visit with you, Prabh. Anytime you need my help, or you have only to ask.
Thank you.
Any of the things that I've gone through that you and I have in common, if somebody wants to sit down and have a coffee shot and talk about it for 30, 40 minutes, or if you want to do a live stream where aspirants can ask questions, I'd be more than happy, as long as we get enough notice where we can put something together.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Damian. And this is all from our side team. And if you find this video useful, do share your network, to subscribe to the channel. And we'll try our best to bring more and more industry experts, which can basically address your queries, your doubts, your area of reference, which you're looking forward in this channel. Our ultimate goal is to make sure the knowledge is free. You need to pay for the attention. I repeat, education is always free. You just need to pay for the attention. Your time is most important, which is basically required for you to upgrade the skills. Thank you.